من قرأ سورة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The Majlis that we've been having and the discussion that we've been going through is the discussion of messages from Ashura under these verses from chapter 89 of Quran, Surah Al-Fajr, verses 27 till 30. The verses are the implementation of Nafs Mutma'in, which we translated or implemented as the Dhat of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, and how the Mufassirin, when they talk about the beginning and the initial part of this chapter, Surah Fajr, when it begins by the dawn and by the 10 nights, wal Fajr wa layalin ashr, the implementation is that it is referring towards the 10 nights of Ashura, or 10 nights of Muharram rather. And therefore our discussion from the very beginning, we began by discussing some of the messages pertaining to the aqaid and the beliefs of madhab tashayyu. Then we talked about some of the messages pertaining to the akhlaq that we derive from Ashura. And alongside that, we talked about Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahi anil Munkar. And we discussed other ethical and moral messages that we can derive from Ashura. So the whole discussion has been revolving around the kalam of Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, as well as his companions and the acts of Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. So if you remember, initially we said the messages from Ashura, or the phenomena of messages, is not only pertaining or only limited rather to the kalam of Imam. Rather, these messages are also learned through the actions, and sometimes even there was not a message that was given over there, but by looking at it from the historical aspect, we derive many lessons from it. So inshallah, in the days to come, we will be talking about some of the historical lessons that we learn from Ashura, beginning from tomorrow, if Allah gives us the permission and the strength, inshallah. Tonight, what I want to talk about is the messages for the reality of the life. That how this life that we look at and the way life was looked at by Imam Hussein in his kalam as well as in the kalam of Amirul Mu'mineen, and how the life was spent by them. So does this life mean breathing and being alive? Is this the name of the life? Or there's something beyond that? Or there's a distinction between the way humans should spend their life as opposed to how animals spend their life? Where does the prosperity in this life lies? How do we again gain and attain this prosperity? What is the meaning of hayat tayyaba, referred to by Quran? There's shajarat tayyaba referred to in Quran. There's shajaratun khabitha referred to as in Quran. And there's hayat tayyaba. What is this hayat tayyaba? Do we discuss that? And how do we get to that? How do we attain that? What is the criteria of life and death of an individual and as well as of a society? And what are the boundaries between animalistic and human's life? These are the few things that inshallah I will try and cover, that so we understand and derive that we are not spending a life where we are going by the hours. As they say in Urdu, subah hoti hai, sham hoti hai, zindagi yun tamam hoti hai. So you enter into the morning hours, you enter into the evening hours, and then your day goes by without any realization, and that's how you've spent the whole life. So at least we get a flavor of that, we understand that, and we look at that. Quran, before I get to Quran, the question was asked by one of the philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche. He was asked, in regards to life. He said, if only our youth can understand why we must live, they will figure out how we should live. And that's what we've been explaining from the very beginning as well. In regards to this Ashura as well. One theme that I'm sure I have repeated so many times that hopefully everybody has it memorized by now, and that is focusing on why Ashura took place, not so much focusing on how it took place. The how part of it is very, very important, is critical to the extent that we need to explain that to those who are unaware of it, because the graphical nature of it, the emotions that are attached with it will definitely bring people closer to this maktab. But the important part that you and I need to focus on more is why it happened, so that we prevent anything of that sort of happening in the future. History repeats itself. We should not make this history be repeated. And so therefore we look at Quran. What is some of the criterion that is given in Quran in regards to this life? For example, in Surah Rum, verse number 7, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. They only know the apparent or the obvious way of living. They only know the superficial realities of the worldly life, and they are unaware of the life to come. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. That which is in zahir, that which is apparent to us, that which is being spelled out to us on our daily basis, that which we see in the media around us, that we are told from the very beginning, that we see when we are growing up by our peers, by our friends, or that what society is telling us all along. This is not life. This is how you should live. You should enjoy every moment of it. You should do this, you should do this. There's only one life that you're going to get. Enjoy whatever you can do, and so on and so forth. So in other words, making this life to be the only thing that you have, and there's no concept of the hereafter. So when you look at life, that this is all you got over here and there's nothing beyond that, then you're going to go ahead and fall victim to these claims saying, spend it however you want to. Because this is the only chance that you're going to get. There's not going to be another chance. There's not going to be anything beyond that. So when you have that perspective, right away, there's no limit. There are no limits and boundaries as to what you do and how you do. So therefore, this is what Islam is trying to prevent us from happening, or prevents us from committing. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. The perspective of Islam as far as how we should spend our life is spent with hereafter in the perspective is the life well spent. If you have your hereafter in your perspective, it is always on your minds, that is a life which is well spent. Life is spent with the hereafter in your mind, back of your mind, front of your mind, inside your mind, wherever you want to keep it. As long as the concept of hereafter, Qayamat is there, that is a life which is well spent, and not a life which is filled with luxuries, yet there's nothing when it comes to the accountability. And similarly, life which is pathetic, there's nothing, you're not enjoying any luxuries, and at the same time, you don't have any perspective of the hereafter. That is the life which is being explained by in Quran. So we see real life is the one which is spent with deeds that we are responsible for, and therefore we listen to these verses and we listen to these ahadith which tell us that al-alimu bila amalin karrami bila witr, or ad-da'i bila amalin karrami bila witr. There are different narrations and variations in this hadith. What is it telling us? It's telling us that alim, and whenever you use the word alim, there's a misconception, only the ones we have the turban on their head. No, alim means all of you. Those who possess knowledge, those who have knowledge. You're alim in your own fields. And to an extent, you're an alim in the field of Islam as well, to the extent that you need to know, which is wajib upon you. It says alim, all of us, not just the one who's sitting on the minbar. Alim bila amal. Yeah, but there's more responsibility on the person sitting on the minbar, because he should know more, because that's the subject that he has chosen to study and spend and dedicated his whole life towards. So, and that's what many other ahadith also, before I get into the tangents, reflect on this fact, that there will be 70 alim punished before one jahil is punished in the day of judgment. Why? Because alim will be questioned. You knew, yet you still went the wrong way. Jahil didn't know. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be easier on those. So we should not get the idea from this hadith that we should all remain jahil, that we should all remain ignorant and not learn anything, because our hisab kitab will be easier on the day of judgment. No. Similarly, if the hisab kitab is easier, the reward is also multiplied over there for alim and ghairi alim. But nonetheless, if you're an alim, if you're knowledgeable, if you possess ilm, yet you do not act according to that, you're like that bow which is without an arrow. You have the combination of bow and arrow. Imagine if you only had one of the two. One of the two without the other part of it is useless. You cannot do it. You cannot use it. Similarly, alim without any action. Ad-da'i bila amal. The one who's making the dua. For example, there's a dua which is mentioned that if you lose something, one of the mujarrab du'as, if you lose something and you're looking for it, is to read, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So you lost something, let's say, in this hall. But you're looking outside. No matter how much Inna lillah you recite, you're not going to be able to find it. Or, I'm just going to sit at my place and start reciting, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. No, that thing will not be found by itself and come to me. I will still have to do some action to gain access or to find it. This is what it means, ad-da'i bila amal. You're making dua, but you're sitting at your place. People ask Allah for sustenance. You got to move. You got to do harakat. And then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sustenance. You got to put your reliance on Allah and then go ahead and do tawakkul. You got to do your part and then rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what I meant to say. I don't know if this story is true or not, but it gives us a message. Person came to Rasulullah and Rasulullah right away asked him, what did you do to your horse? He said, I left it, tawakkul ala Allah. Prophet said, no, tie it to a tree or something and then do tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't leave it loose and then do tawakkul that Allah will keep it where He is. No. First do your job, that is to tie it and secure it, and then have reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it will remain in its place until you come back. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the life is spent in the ta'at and the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the life well spent. We read in the kalam of our third Imam, Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam, in which he said, Inna hadhihi dunya qad taghayyarat wa tanakkarat وَأَجْبَرَ مَعْرُوفُهَا فَلَمْ يَبْقَ مِنْهَا إِلَّا صُبَابَةٌ كَصَابَّةِ الْإِنَاءِ وَحَسِيسٌ عَيْشٍ كَالْمَرْعَ الْوَبِيلِ. Look at the words that Imam is using. It's a very strong analogy that Imam is giving. Analogy which right away takes you, without confusing you, takes you to what Imam is trying to tell you. Imam is saying what? He says, indeed this world has changed. It has changed from the time that my Prophet or Rasulullah was here, or from whatever time, the time that Amirul Mu'mineen was here, the life, and this world has changed a great deal. You look at it, indeed it has changed. Imam Hussein, his personality, his caliber, his life, not that he's talking about any worldly luxuries, no. The way he spent his initial life, if you compare that with the incidents of the last 2 years of his life, Imam, out of all people, has the, Imam has the right to say that the world has changed. So this is what he says. Indeed, this world has changed. You have turned away from righteousness. That's one thing he says. And then he says, nothing is left from it, or anything that is left from it is all the way in the bottom. What is he trying to say? He says, when you drink water, hopefully we drink everything and then we throw it away. But when you drink water, if there's something left on the bottom that you just throw away, that's what this life has turned into. Or the grass which has been grazed upon, which has been chewed upon, and whatever is remaining of that grass, Imam said, this is the reality of the life. Indeed, the world has changed, and this is the reality of the life. Imam is looking at it from this perspective. So he's actually giving us open our eyes as to look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent 124,000 prophets. There must be a reason behind it. They did not come in vain. There must have been a reason why Allah is going through such trouble, that there's no trouble for Allah. But still He's making an effort to send 124,000 prophets. And then all of these scriptures. There must be a reason. Don't deny all of this without focusing upon it, without going through it and looking at it. Still, many people made wrong choices. Just look at and focus in Karbala. There's a person by the name Ubaidullah ibn Hurr al-Juhfi. He made a bad mistake. Imam goes up to him, offers him to come and join him. He said, Imam, I'm not siding with any of the parties. I don't want to side with Yazid. That will put my hereafter in danger. I don't want to side with you. That will put my life in danger. So if I go with you, I lose, I get killed. If I go with Yazid, my hereafter is in danger. Not realizing that if you go with Imam, apparently your life might be in danger, but your hereafter is secured. Not realizing that fact, he said, I want to stay neutral. Bad choice. He said, Imam, you can use all my resources, my horse, my shield, my sword, wealth that I have, it's all for you. Imam said, no, I don't need any of those things. I'm not here to get your resources. I'm here to bring you out of dhulumat and take you towards nur. That's what my purpose is. You can keep all that you have with you. Other people that were present over there, people of Kufa, they made a very terrible choice. First they invited Imam, and then when Imam is on his way, they sink into the pressure. They revert back to what they were before. But then we answered that question the other day as to why Imam continued on the path towards Kufa. Well, at least people of Kufa invited Imam. Those who are mentioning to Imam, go towards Yemen, go towards Egypt, go towards another direction, further away from the conflict. On what basis? At least the same reliance on Allah. You do your hard work, Imam did. He got these letters from the Kufans. No one else wrote letters. No one else showed inclination to help Imam or to ask Imam to come and guide him. 18,000 signatories. And I promised, I think earlier, that I will mention some of the texts of the letters that were sent to Imam. Still, Imam ﷺ went, but they made a bad choice. But then at the same time, there were people who were not willing to join Imam, but then they made a better choice. Zuhair ibn Qayn is one of them. This is the reality of the life. Zuhair is a very prominent personality himself. He's got his business, he's wealthy, life is straight, everything is all right for him. Well respected as well. In fact, he's also coming after Hajj, but he's moving a little bit ahead of Imam. He was camped over there where Imam sent a letter for him inviting him. Initially he said, no, I don't want to go see him. His wife was the one who encouraged him. So a lot of places these women have played a major role. If it was not for that wife of Zuhair ibn Qayn, he might not have joined the army of Imam. What did the wife of Zuhair said to him? Go see what Imam Hussein has to say. You don't have to listen. You don't have to do what he's saying. Make your own choice, but at least go see what he has to say. So that tomorrow you don't regret, oh, I wish I had heard. I had paid, I had listened to what he had to say at least. So you don't have that regret and you don't have to spend the whole life with that regret. Go listen to what he has to say. Here, neither one of them has the inclination of doing what Imam wants them to do. He comes, has a conversation with Imam, comes back and tells his wife that you're free to go wherever you want to. Here's all my belonging, I give it to you. In fact, all of my wartha towards you, I'm going to stay with Imam. She's like, what happened? Moments ago, you weren't even thinking about going and listening to what Imam had to say. Now, after this one visit, what has changed? What happened? Then he explains. Among the lessons that we derive from Ashura, brothers and sisters, is the lesson of ishq, an extreme love that these individuals had for Imam Hussein, and then Imam Hussein had for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you love someone, and that is over here in the form of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're willing to sacrifice many things along the way. One of the attributes that come alongside with this love and ishq. I love my parents. Everybody over here would say the same thing, that we love our parents. What does that mean that you love them? Answer that. That means you're willing to go through difficulties for them. If there was difficulty, you would go through for the sake of your parents. That's what love is. Love is being able to sacrifice or let go and prefer someone over yourself. That's what the meaning of love is in our Islamic culture, at least. There's another attribute that comes along with love, and that is the attribute of rida. To be radi with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever He has decreed, you're radi with that. And this is a higher level actually. Why? The person who's standing in a battlefield, there's a cause in the mind of this person. The wounds that he's being struck with, he pays no attention to them because there's a bigger task ahead of him. So he's willing to go through these wounds that he's been given in the midst of this battle because there's a bigger objective in his mind. I'll break it down for another smaller example so that all of us can understand, especially the younger ones. For example, you heard, God forbid, a news that, there's been an accident. Some family member had been involved in an accident. You run towards the hospital, for example. And on the path, on the way to the hospital, if there were thorns that pierced into your foot, you would not pay any attention to them. Why? Because your mind is set at something which is far more serious. These thorns, you'll take them out afterwards. But if there was no emergency, the moment this thorn goes into your foot, you'll sit down over there, try to pull it out. Here, there's nothing else. There's no ishq, there's no love beyond which is driving you to this destination. So in other words, when you have this ishq, when you have this love, you're willing to drink that, sour drink. I'm just translating the Farsi version of it or the Urdu version of it. Kadwa ghoot. You're willing to drink it because there's something, and I'll give you an example. For example, by taking this medicine which tastes bad, it will cure you. you will find a cure. Right now, you're ill, you're sick, you have a fever, this medicine you hate, you abhor. But you know, taking this tasteless medicine will go ahead and provide you with cure. Or those people who are found to have to perform a surgery. For example, someone says, you will need heart surgery. You will need a bypass surgery. In order for us to, make sure that the heart survives. You're willing to go through this difficult surgery. Why? Because on the other side of it, there's cure in it. So when you understand on the other side of it, there's cure or there's something which lies, which you love, you're willing to go through this difficult path that is in the middle of it. A lot of time we raise this question. I don't know if I got this point across or not. But nonetheless, a lot of time we raise this question. And our topic is discussing about life and the reality of the life. Why so-and-so have this? Why so many people are enjoying, yet we are not? Or in general, when we look at how Muslimin are suffering and non-Muslims are enjoying. So does that mean there's something? Then you start looking for reasons in your religion. So if it was so much that we are the chosen people, or the religion that we follow is the best religion, then why is it that we are deprived in this world? Why is it that we are not given better opportunities? Or in general, we even compare among ourselves, looking at the lifestyles of various people that are around us. That person is not even that religious, but he's so well off. We are so religious, we don't have this. So does that mean Allah hates us? Does that mean Allah does not like us? Maulana has been covering some of these topics, so I don't want to repeat, but I will reverberate and echo what Maulana said the other day. That the individual who is referred to as Mehboob-e Ilahi, none other than Khatamul Anbiya, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his life is filled with calamities from the very beginning. Born as an orphan. And then the whole life of our Prophet. Difficulties after difficulties after difficulties. And majority of them were disheartening to him because it was performed by his own Muslimin. The more that he suffered from the hands of those Muslims, I don't think he suffered from the hands of kuffar. But do we call him to be the most unfortunate person in the world? Would have been Prophet. But he's Mehboob-e Ilahi. So the criteria we understand from it is, the more difficulties you face in the world does not make you unfortunate. Badbakht. No. That actually is the key that you are the most favorite of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because that's what we've seen. I am my Masumeen, they suffered. Does Allah hate them? No. They're the chosen ones. They're the most beloved of all. So one criteria is the more you're loved by Allah, the more difficulties you will see. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa. And so we make a lot of mistakes. And that's what the reality of the life. This is where we're trying to pick and choose where not to make a mistake. And the fact that we make mistakes should give us an idea that our aql is not enough. I don't know if you've heard, but I have heard many times. When you mention a mas'ala, whether it's regards to the moon sighting, whether it's in regards to some medical related issues, whether it's in regards to other things, and sometimes people say, my aql does not go along with this masala. Shariat tells us this, but my aql is not following this. Tell me if there's any aql in the world, or forget about any aql in the world, all of us over here, have we ever regretted something in the world that we did in our life? Is there an individual over here in this crowd that can say that in my entire life I have never regretted anything that I have done? If one, I'm sure there might be someone. But if one person can come up and say that I have never regretted anything that I have done in my life, you can say, yeah, that is aql kamil over there. But the fact that we have regretted many times in our lives, that means we have made mistakes in our lives. That tells us this aql needs something else alongside with it. By itself is not complete. And you cannot compare this aql with the wahi and the revelation that comes down. Islam is not closing the doors on aql. No, use and utilize your aql. But we are, at the end of the day, muti amr mawla, not muti amr aql. At the end of the day, we are the obedient to the amr and the commands of the mawla and not the commands of our aql. If that is understood, then you will stop questioning many things that we question. There's nothing wrong to question. But once you question and you're told the answer, then you should remain content with that and not say, well, this does not go along with my aql. I'll give you an example. So what is Mullah talking about? Spoke to with some people, talked to them about it. You know, I saw someone wearing gold, some men wearing gold rings. As is the usual thing is over here, they wear the gold band and, you know, after they get married and so on and so forth. Right away I told them, you know, mashallah, you're a Muslim, you're here over here. Gold is haram on men. It's like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Women can wear it all they want to. It's haram on men. You know, what is it doing? How is it haram? Well, I can't understand that. Well, I can't explain that either, why it's haram. I'm sure there's a medical reason as well and logical reason behind it as well. But for me, I have learned this in our ahadith that Masumeen have said to us that gold is haram for men to wear. Simple as that. Case closed. Unless you don't know, don't keep on practicing. But people raise question, no, this does not sit equally with my aql. So therefore, I'm going to continue wear it until the solution has been given to me. So a lot of places we go ahead and use our aql and we neglect the shariat aspect of it. That's where problems also arise. The reality of the life is that we are the followers and the muti' and the obedient to the amr of Mawla and not follower and muti' and obedient to the amr of our aql. And like salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. And then there's life without death. So we're continuing the true right and wrong decisions that you take in life. Life is a constant struggle. We see that all of the prophets gone through struggles. There's life without death. That is the life of those who have been martyred. For example, we read in the ayat of Quran, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. That those who died and gave and sacrificed their life in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not consider them to be dead, they're alive. Hazrat Zainab also said the same thing in the court of Yazid. She's standing in front of him and she said what? She said this to him. فَكِدْ كَيْدَكَ وَسَعَى سَعْيَكَ وَنَاسِبْ جُهْدَكَ فَوَاللَّهِ لَا تَمْهُ ذِكْرَنَا وَلَا تُمِيتُ وَحِينَا. Do all you want to do. Do whatever it is possible for you to do. But you will never be able to remove our dhikr from the minds of the people. And that's why today we see. You will never be able to remove the wahi and the revelation that came down. That's why today we see that Hussein is alive. Zainab is alive. But those who oppress Hussein and Zainab are not alive. They've been destroyed. Similarly, if you and I were to oppress Hussein and Zainab, you say, how are we going to oppress Hussein and Zainab? If we do not follow on their footsteps, and if we do not spread what they brought, the message that they brought, we are similar to those people who try to suppress their message. Yazid stood up against Imam Hussein. He's standing in front of Janabi Zainab. He's an oppressor. You and I will become the same if we do not go ahead and spread the message of Zainab and Hussein. Why? They tried to kill them physically, and to remove their dhikr, you and I are trying to make them mazloom by not doing their dhikr or not by following their footsteps properly. So that's something which we need to also keep with ourselves. Lastly, as I'm running out of my time, they put this clock in front of me that keeps on reminding that I'm running out of my time. But I'll go through this all quickly because tomorrow, inshallah, I want to go into the historical lessons that we derive from Ashura, and I have a long way to go over here. Please send a loud salawat. Lastly, being heedless in life and fear of death. That is one of the lessons that we can also derive when we look at the reality of the life in Ashura. That, Imam Hussain is saying, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ الْحَيَاةَ أَنَّ الدُّنْيَا حُلْوَهَا وَمُرَّهَا حُلْمٌ وَالْإِنْتِبَاهَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ وَالْفَائِزَ مَنْ فَازَ فِيهَا وَالشَّقِيَ مَنْ شَقِيَ فِيهَا. Let it be known that this world and حُلْوَهَا وَمُرَّهَا حُلْمٌ وَالْإِنْتِبَاهَ, that the sweetness that you see and the sourness that you see, sweetness of this world is just a dream. In fact, I think Mawla Muttaqiyan at another place has also mentioned similar reality of the life. That this life is what? This life is like this serpent which is layyinun from outside. When you touch it, how soft it is. But inside of this serpent, inside of this snake is what? Lies this venom which will be devastating for you. And if that reality is properly understood and grasped as far as the philosophy that Imam is trying to tell us, the reality of the life is. You understand, you look at this life, you look at all the things that it has to offer you. But then it's kind of like, and I give this example of, I don't know how many of you remember that cartoon that we used to watch, Tom and Jerry. I still watch it. You know what? There are some examples that you can learn and derive from even cartoons. If you remember the mouse, they always showed that he loved the cheese. He was after the cheese all the time. And obviously the cat was after the mouse. So cat would bring all of these things out of its resources that it had, but cannot afford to buy a mouse. All the resources that it could have to buy all different types of cheese and put one after another, and at the end put a trap. And obviously Jerry, as we knew Jerry, would go after one cheese, and next cheese, the third one, and the fourth one, and the fifth one. Still, he would be able to escape from the trap that was at the end. But what the point that I'm trying to derive over here, life is similar. We see that there's one piece of cheese in front of us. We take that. We see the second piece of cheese in front of us. We take that. And we keep on following and tread down this path, not realizing that there's a trap at the end of the day. There's a trap. Quran talks about it. You're given these luxuries, don't think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as long as it's all halal, there's nothing wrong with it. But if it's making you heedless of the reality of the life, that's when it becomes a problem. So by no means that I'm trying to denounce that luxuries of this life and the wealth, nobody should go after. No. If you don't have wealth, you will not be able to do many things or anything in this world. That is not the point which is being given over here. But the one that is being discussed in Quran, the one who hoards this wealth and falls in love of this wealth and falls in love of the luxuries of this world. So there's cheese after cheese after cheese. At the end of that lies a trap. So beware of that. So don't fall into that. Don't fall prey and be a victim to that trap that is at the end. Allah says, you think that these zalimeen, they keep on doing their zulm and Allah is unaware of them? It's an ayat of Quran that I'm reading. These zalimeen will keep doing their zulm and we are unaware of them? No. We know what they are doing and we have, at the end of the day, something for them as well. Innama numli, the reason we have given them this respite, that they keep on doing what they're doing, is not because, we are not looking after them. We want them to yazdad, we want them to increase in their, wrongdoings. So it'll all be accumulated one day and we'll show it to them. That is the reason they're given this respite, so that they increase upon the bad deeds that they have accumulated. Very quickly, I'll go through this. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I have time. And lastly, there's shahadat talabi. The love to ask for the shahadat that we also learn from these companions. I won't have the time to go into the details of that, but we see that how Imam ﷺ, he said this towards the end. He said, "Amma ba'd, faka'anna ad-dunya lam takun wa ka'anna al-akhirah lam tazal. Wassalam." Said, as if the world is no longer. It is no longer the world exists. إِذْ قَدْ بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةُ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ. When the world is going to pay allegiance to a person like Yazid, عَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ وَالسَّلَامِ. In Arabic, you have as-salam and you have was-salam. When you come in, you say as-salam. That is the first greeting. When you leave, you say was-salam. Imam is saying, عَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ وَالسَّلَامِ. Islam ka khuda hafiz. Bid farewell to Islam. إِذْ قَدْ بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةُ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ. If Ummah is ready to make Yazid be the leader, then this religion, on this Islam, you should just, kiss it goodbye. There's nothing left in it. But then, those who ask for, those who do tamanna, we talked about it in Surah Jummah the other day, those who make dua and tamanna for this death, those who are approving what they have done and what they have sent forth in the bargah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the reasons those people who would not make tamanna for the death, as these ayat of Surah Jummah mention, وَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ أَبَدًا بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. The fact that they have sent something which they are unsure of. That's why, hopefully nobody has gone through this. You don't want to see sometimes your scores. I know what I have done. I don't want to look at my scores. I know what I wrote on the paper. Why don't you want to see it? Because you're already aware of what you have written. These people are saying way they will never make the tamanna of death. Why? Because they're scared of this death for what they have sent forth. Not realizing, and that's why hadith says, when a person dies, two types of reactions come about. People say, ma taraka. Those who are remaining, he said, ma taraka, what has he left? But the malaika say, ma qaddama. What has he sent? We should be among those for whom malaika are saying, yes, this person has sent something forth. Our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu was salam. Imam alayhi salatu was salam, he said, do not shun away the beggar that comes to your door. Because he's transferring your goods from this life to the hereafter. Look at it from that aspect. You have your goods. Nobody, even the most irrational person in the world, won't say that bury me with all of the wealth that I have with me. Bury all the wealth with me. Anyone will look at it and say, what good is that going to do to you? Yeah, if you spend this wealth properly by feeding and giving it to those who it belongs to, or whom you should be helping out. If a sa'il comes knocking on your door, don't shun him away. Why? He's actually doing you a favor. You think you, by giving money or whatever, by advice, you are doing this person a favor? No, he's doing you a favor. Look at it from that aspect. And people are like, how is he doing us a favor? I took the bill out of my pocket. I gave money and I put money on his hand. I, according to the world, is doing favor to this person. He is not doing any favor to me. I'm saying, no, he's transferring your wealth from this life to the hereafter without charging any transferring fee. You transfer money, I'm sure everybody over here transfers money back home or wherever, there's a fee that is attached with that transfer. This child is not charging you anything for that transfer. He's making that transfer free. So he's doing you a favor, you're not doing him a favor. And that's what the reality of the life is. Unfortunately, I ran out of my time could not go in some of the other details of it from the kalam of Imam Hussain, but inshallah I have for a few more nights ahead of me. I will try to make up. But when you look at this life and all that it has to offer, when you have a choice to make, and I'll give you choices, life or wealth. If you had to choose between the two, what would you choose? Life. You say, if I have wealth today, jaan hai to jahan hai. If I have the life today, no matter, well, maybe some people might say, well, if I don't have any wealth, I might as well die. Honor or wealth? You expend all of your life to gain some honor. You say, no, I want to keep this honor. This wealth I can attain and I can accumulate later on. So there's a discussion in ilm usul of aham and muhim. Ilm usul, the principles of jurisprudence, there's a discussion of aham wa muhim. Muhim means something that is important. Aham, that which is more important. So both coming from the same root, meaning important. One is important, one is more important. So when you have discussion between honor and wealth, or choice between the two, you choose honor, which is aham, wealth being, muhim, it is important. When it's a discussion of life over wealth or honor, for example, obviously you will choose life. You cannot put yourself into tahaluka or death. Similar choice, but at a higher level, is what Imam has to make. Imam Hussain, he has these choices in front of him. What is the choice? This religion or this family? Imam, if you stay back in Medina, your family might survive, but there won't be any honor left in it. But if you go to Karbala, you will be martyred. Imam replied by saying, if even my son is martyred, I would prefer this religion over it. Even if my 6-month-old is martyred, I would prefer this religion over it. Even if Abbas has to give both of his arms, I'll prefer this religion over it. Even if Zainab has to give her chadar, I will prefer this religion over it. All of those things are very important to me, but they're not as important to the fact that this religion is. Imam ﷺ is not saying this. As I said before, many of the things that we derive from the actions are not what his Imam has said, but we look at what Imam performed. He could have easily secured and safeguarded his family, but putting them into this danger is telling us the more important thing in the eyes of Imam. And now that I have brought you to this fact, that there is a person by the name Qabar Bani Hashim, for whom we are mourning tonight. When Janab Fatima Zahra left this world, Imam Ali asked, Aqil, guide me or tell me about the family where there's bravery, they're famous for their bravery. So Imam married a lady from that family, who later on came to known as Baneen. Gave 4 children to Imam. Imam Ali said, I will use these children for Hussein. The day Imam Ali was leaving this world, 21st of Ramadan, you all heard the Masayib that Imam asks everyone and puts their hand into the hand of Imam Hassan. But he does not invite Hazrat Abbas, for which Baneen asks, Mawla, has my son done something that you did not put his hand into the hand of Hassan? Imam said, no, bring Hussein. They bring Imam Hussein, they bring Hazrat Abbas. Imam gives the hand of Hazrat Abbas in the hand of Imam Hussein. Or rather gives the hand of Imam Hussein in the hand of Hazrat Abbas. He said, "Oh Abbas, let it be known. You are my son and Hussein is son of Rasulullah. As long as you are alive, make sure nothing happens to Hussein." And that's what one of the reasons when Bashir, when he was reciting, when the Qafila had come back to Medina, he went inside the Medina and he announced that Hussein has been martyred and everybody has been martyred in Karbala and the caravan has returned. Baneen was in the state of shock. She said, how is it possible that with Abbas being there, something happened to Hussein? How is it possible? I cannot believe it. Until Bashir told him, don't worry about it, Baneen. Abbas made sure till the last moment, as long as he was alive, nothing happened to Hussein. Yes, Hussein was only martyred after Hazrat Abbas had left this world. When Imam ﷺ's army, everybody has given their martyrdom, Hazrat Abbas comes to Imam Hussein. "Oh Mawla, give me the permission to go ahead and perform this jihad." Imam said, "Oh Abbas, you are Qafle Salar. You are the one who holds you're the flag bearer. How can I let you go?" Flag bearer of what? This army that has all gone already? Hazrat Abbas turns around and says, "Mawla, there's no army left behind me. I'm bearing this flag for what? There's no army behind me." When Imam sees that Hazrat Abbas wants to go, he says, "Okay, before you go, get some water for the children because they've been thirsty." You can hear the sound of al-atash, al-atash. Abbas is given a task. He goes to the tent where Hazrat Sakina is. He asks for the water skin to be brought. He takes this water skin and he says to Sakina that I will go get some water for you. Hazrat Sakina has complete trust and faith in Hazrat Abbas, to the extent that she tells all of the children that my Ammu has promised me he will bring water back. Hazrat Abbas goes out towards Furat. He gets the access to Furat with much difficulty. 4,000 men were guarding Furat, but Hazrat Abbas makes his way to Furat, fills this water skin. Some people do mention that Hazrat Abbas picked up water in his hand. I don't think he even picked up the water in his hand. But they mention this to show us his wafadari, his loyalty. They said, look, I have water in my control, but that does not mean I'm going to drink it. As long as Sakina is thirsty, as long as the children are thirsty, Abbas cannot quench his thirst. Janab Zainab comes out and says, "Oh Mawla, where's Abbas?" Imam said, "Oh Zainab, oh my sister, Abbas is not going to return anymore." This is where Janab Zainab realizes, holds her shoulders like this. He said, "I remember what my father said once to me." Imam Hussain said to Zainab, what did you remember? She said, when Hazrat Abbas, my father was kissing my neck and my father was kissing my shoulders, I said, "Oh my father, why are you doing this?" He said, "Because one day your neck will be put into the rope and your hands will be tied with the rope." And I said to my father, "Oh Mawla, with all due respect, someone has a brother like Abbas. How is it possible for anyone to go ahead and put them into shackles?" And I remember that day what my Mawla had said, "But laqad sadaqa amirul mu'minin." But whatever he has said, he was truthful in saying that, because in near future, I see that happening to me. The night before, the Shab Ashur, when Hazrat Abbas and Imam Hussein, they were circling around. They were going from tent to another tent. This is where they come across a tent where Kulthum is sitting. They see that Kulthum was weeping. Imam Hussein asks Kulthum as to what the reason of your weeping is. She says that Layla is preparing Ali Akbar, Zainab is preparing Muhammad, Farwa is preparing Hazrat Qasim. All of the women are readying their children so that they may be sacrificed tomorrow. But unfortunately, oh Mawla, I do not have any children. How will I present my sacrifice to you? This is where Hazrat Abbas goes in. He says, oh my sister, don't worry about it. I will be your sacrifice tomorrow for Imam Hussein. Hazrat Abbas is coming back from Furat. You know the difficulty. They attack from right, they attack from left. He tries to safeguard this water skin. This is the only Ajrukum Allah. This is the only hope that is left in Hazrat Abbas, to bring this water to the tent. Nothing else is more important for him. He safeguards this water skin, but then there comes an arrow that pierces through this water skin and pours all the water down, drains all the water down. As the water was being drained, all the hopes of Hazrat Abbas were being drained out as well. And then comes an arrow that strikes him right into his forehead. Hazrat Abbas comes down to the ground. As he comes down to the ground, Imam Hussein gets up, holds on to his back and said, Al-an inkasara zahri. Now my back has been broken. Oh my brother, with you leaving, my back has been broken. Last sentences, Imam goes quickly towards Hazrat Abbas, tries to bring him towards the khiyam. Hazrat Abbas says, oh Mawla, do not bring me towards the khiyam. I cannot bring this face in front of Sakina. I promised her that I will bring water back for her. Imam wipes off the face of Hazrat Abbas, which has been filled with blood. Imam sees that Abbas is still crying. Imam says, oh Abbas, pretty soon you will go to Rasulullah. You will embrace the Shahadat. What is the reason to cry? Last sentence is, Hazrat Abbas said, oh Mawla, when I fell, you came to my rescue. You took my head and you put it on your lap. But later on, when you will fall, who will come to you? Allah la'natullahi al-qawm al-zalimin. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ